Minnesota Viking highlights of 1963. Hi, everybody. This is Herb Carneal. 1963, the year the Vikings grew up. More than 500,000 fans saw Norm Van Brocklin's crew win 5, lose 8, and play a tie with the world champion Chicago Bears. The Vikings finished ahead of the long-established Rams and 49ers, and they tied powerful Detroit for 4th place in the rugged National Football League's Western Division. And the Vikings did it with the youngest team in National Football League history. They did it with a handful of rookies and young men just 2 years off the college gridiron. Sunday after Sunday, our young Vikings stood toe-to-toe with the best professional football had to offer. The veterans, the specialists, the businessmen of the world's toughest game. Who are they, these greats the Vikings faced? Well, time doesn't permit us to see them all, but let's take a look at a few of them. One of the most feared runners in football is Abe Woodson of the 49ers. The Vikings kick off the season in sunny San Francisco as Freddie Cox's kick goes 3 yards deep in the end zone. Woodson has it. And here's why this fellow is the finest return specialist in pro football. Speed, fakes. Woodson has everything. And the 1963 season begins with a 103-yard run back, the longest of the year in the National Football League. It's no accident. Woodson has led the NFL in kickoff returns for 2 years. Now, if there are any football fans who think that was lucky, that Woodson couldn't do it again, well, let's watch Woodson try. Here he is once more against the Vikings at Met Stadium. And this time, Woodson goes for only 97 yards. Well, that's 7 years of experience eating up the chalk marks. And Woodson has been doing it to every team in the National Football League. And now let's look at the finest tight end in pro football. That would be Chicago Bears' Mike Ditka. Here, Ditka gobbles up a pass from Billy Wade. And then it's 230 pounds of crushing power. The Bears have another trademark. Their defensive line, the most violent in football, monsters of the Midway. And here's how they look to a young quarterback named Fran Tarkenton. Every Viking opponent has a top-notch quarterback, and this is Earl Morrall of the Detroit Lions. This year, Morrall developed into one of the finest quarterbacks in the NFL. Of course, there's no one greater than number 19, Baltimore's John Unitas, the man with the arm, the fakes, and some of the finest receivers in football. One of them is Raymond Berry, and this unbelievable play beat the Vikings at Met Stadium. Berry is defensed perfectly, but the ball slips through his arms. He catches it anyway between his legs. Unitas also found a promising young new receiver in 1963, tight end John Mackey from Syracuse. Mackey has all the power of a fullback and uses the stiff arm like a halfback. How's that for power? Vince Lombardi in Green Bay has a full house of all-pros and near all-pros. Among his many stars are halfback Tom Moore, who passes as well as he runs, and Boyd Dowler, who causes trouble for everybody in the NFL. In Los Angeles, there's quarterback Roman Gabriel. He came off the bench in 1962 as a rookie and last year found himself. He got help like this from Red Phillips, one of the all-time great ends. No question, Roman Gabriel is a future great. Well, these are the stars our Vikings must meet every Sunday afternoon. Matched against these greats, Norm Van Brocklin's young team provided both thrills and heartaches in 1963. The Green Bay game in Met Stadium, for example, had enough to last a lifetime. Green Bay on the Viking 36, first quarter. Starr hits Dowler for 22 yards. Lee Callan, the Vikings' fine rookie cornerman, gets him on the 14. The Vikings hold, though, and Jerry Kramer of the Packers comes in to kick the field goal that puts the Packers ahead 3-0. This was one Sunday afternoon when the young Vikings couldn't do anything right for 30 minutes. A pitch out to Bill Brown is fumbled, and Henry Jordan recovers for the Packers on the Viking 32. The defending world champions are on the march. Here, Tom Moore will get the handoff as he rolls out, sees Max McGee, and Max McGee has the ball in the end zone. In 8 minutes, the Packers have 10 points. From his own 18, Fran Tarkenton of the Vikings decides to pass, and he spots Tommy Mason in the open, but Tommy slips and falls. A sure catch turns into an interception by Willie Wood. The Packers move down to the Viking 10-yard line, and this time the Packer call will go to tight end Ron Kramer. Quarterback Bart Starr hits him perfectly, and the Green Bay lead goes 17-0. 17 points in the first 11 minutes of play. Viking fans begin to wonder whether this could be the biggest drought in NFL history. And the Packers keep it up. We're still in the first quarter. Bart Starr wants more points, but this time Ed Sherachman picks off the pass on the Packer 47. He gets a tremendous block from Chuck Lamson. Another from number 76, Paul Dixon. And the Vikings are finally on the scoreboard as the first quarter ends. Packers 17, Minnesota 7. The run or pass option, a Packer favorite play, is called here by Bart Starr. It's a handoff to Elijah Pitts on the Viking 28. And Pitts has Ron Kramer open on the 8 for a first down. Lamson and Callum make the tackle. The Vikings throttle the Packer running game, so Bart Starr decides to go once more to the air. On this one, Elijah Pitts runs a fine pattern and takes the ball in the end zone. The Packers have a 24-7 halftime lead, capitalizing on 3 Viking mistakes. Starr has hit 11 of 20 passes. Third quarter now, the Packers in front by 20. Starr gives to fullback Earl Groh. Lee Callan hits him. Roy Winston has the loose ball, and he's going all the way. 26 yards and Winston's first touchdown in professional football. In the fourth quarter, Green Bay is ahead by 16 points, 30-14. The Vikings have 13 minutes to move the ball. Here, Fran Tarkenton hits Paul Flatley for a 13-yard gain. The play puts the Vikings in Green Bay territory. Now it's Tarkenton calling an audible at the line of scrimmage. Green Bay is offside. The handoff goes to Tom Wilson. He gets one block, and that's all he needs. 16 yards here, and a first down on the Packer 29. Now 12 minutes left to play. The Vikings down by 16 points. They have to go to the air. Tarkenton back. He spots Paul Flatley. Flatley has 2 steps on Adderley, and it's Paul's 4th catch of the day. And now it's Green Bay 30, Minnesota 21. Time left to play is 9 minutes. Green Bay out near midfield. Bart Starr unwinds here to Boyd Dowler. 13 yards, but Dowler drops it. Steve Stonebreaker comes up with the ball on the Minnesota 40. 8.5 minutes left in the game. The Viking attack starts to roll into high gear. Tom Wilson goes first for 5, and on this one for 9 yards. This time he's pounded by Ray Nitschke on the Packer 46. 7 minutes, 43 seconds left on the clock. The Packers know the Vikings have to throw to catch up. The Viking line holds long enough for Tarkenton to spot Jerry Reichow. A tremendous effort by the Iowa handyman, and it's a first down on the Packers' 4-yard line. 6 minutes left in the game. This time the call goes to Bill Brown from the 1-yard line. And Billy takes it in for the touchdown, and it's the Packers 30, the Vikings 28, and the defending champions are on the ropes. The Viking defense is savage. Green Bay has to give up the ball with 2.5 minutes to go. The Vikings have it on their 45. And as the Hams slow-motion camera catches the action, Tarkenton goes to the air, and again it's Paul Flatley in one of the finest pass-catching and ballet acts of the season. Jess Whittenden finally knocks him out on the Green Bay 10. So the clock stops. 2 minutes left to play, and the fans can't believe it's all true. On first down, Jerry Reichow sets up the block. Just enough for Tommy Mason to turn inside. And Tommy gets to the 4-yard line. The Packers' defense is violent, though, and 2 plays later finds the Vikings still on the 4. 45 seconds left to play. Packers 30, Vikings 28. A field goal can win it, and Freddie Cox will try it. Watch the left side of the screen. The villain will be Herb Adderley. He blocks the kick. Hank Greminger gets the ball, and it's 80 yards of daylight for Greminger and heartbreak for the Vikings. The final score, Green Bay 37, Minnesota 28. But it could have been the biggest upset of the season. The Detroit Lions came to Met Stadium in late November and found the Vikings had matured. In the first quarter, Fran Tarkenton fakes and scrambles until he finds Paul Flatley. Flatley has 3 steps on his defender, and this one is a long one for 59 yards. The Lions' Tom Hall finally knocks Flatley out of bounds on Detroit's 19. Now watch number 24, Tommy Wilson. He sets up the pocket and then takes a swing pass for a first down on the Detroit 6-yard line. Here's how it looks to Fran Tarkenton from the 1-yard line with Detroit in an 8-man line. Tommy Wilson gets the call and the score, climaxing an 80-yard drive. The Vikings lead 7-0. Detroit with the ball on its 20. Earl Morrill at quarterback hands off to Danny Lewis, and Lewis is whacked hard by Paul Dixon. Don Holtz steals the ball, and the Vikings have first and 10 on the Lions' 19. Tarkenton had 16 completions in 24 tries this Sunday afternoon. One of the reasons was the tremendous protection by the Viking offensive line. Flatley falls out of bounds here on the 4-yard line. But the Vikings cannot gain in 3 downs and have to settle for a field goal. Freddie Cox in the kick from the 14-yard line, the first of Fred's 2 field goals for the day, and the Vikings are out in front 10-0 at the end of the first quarter. But Earl Morrill puts the Lions right back in the ball game, but then he's always causing fits for the Vikings. With less than a minute to go in the second period, Morrill hits Terry Barr with a 10-yarder. Now the Vikings deep in their own territory, but they don't waste any time. Again, Fran Tarkenton will get good protection, and he'll spot Paul Flatley in the open behind Tom Hall. Watch Hall grab Flatley's face mask. The pass is good, though, for 18 yards, and the Vikings pick up 15 more yards on the penalty. The Vikings are forced to kick, and Freddie Cox booms one down to the 13-yard line, and watch the Viking pursuit. It's a loose ball, and a half dozen Vikings are in position, and it goes to Larry Bowie on the 11-yard line. The Vikings move to the 9, and now watch this convoy for Tommy Mason. It'll be a one-man gang led by Jerry Huth. 1 dive, 2 dives, and the Vikings have a 17-7 lead. A few minutes later, the Vikings in control. Huth is in on another head knocker. Fran Tarkenton spots a receiver. But here, Huth's head and helmet get in the way. Darius McCord gets it, and Detroit is on the Viking 4. The Lions need only 1 play for the touchdown, despite a tremendous effort by Terry Dillon and Bill Jobko. Petrosani falls into the end zone after getting good belts from Dillon and Jobko. The Lions, though, have cut the score to 17-14. 28 seconds to go in the half. Here comes the Viking poison again. Morrill throwing a desperation pass. 3 Vikings are on top of Petrosani and Gail Coggill. They battle for it in the end zone, and Coggill is the better wrestler. He gets it, and Detroit goes ahead 21-17 at the half. Third quarter now, Detroit pulls ahead 28-17. Their big defensive line putting on the pressure. Tarkenton still gets protection as he looks downfield for Gordy Smith. A defender gets a finger on the ball, but that's all. 54 yards with Smith running like a halfback, the final 20. The final 15 minutes, Detroit leading 28-27. Earl Morrill knows he has to get more points on the scoreboard, and he's desperate. This fake punt works. Morrill goes for 15 yards, a play you don't see very often anymore, even in sandlot ball. The Lions keep driving. This time, Morrill is going to be rushed. But watch as he gets off a wobbling pass. Chuck Lamson has Gail Cogdill in the best possible spot on the ground, but that's where Cogdill catches the ball. But the Lions have to settle for a field goal and a 31-27 lead. 8 minutes to play now. Lions driving again, perhaps for a touchdown. Jim Marshall comes up with a big play of the game. Lewis had the handoff, and Marshall whacks him. There's only one fellow who can come out of a scramble like this with a ball, and he's Don Holtz, who recovered 9 fumbles to set a National Football League record. 6 minutes to go. The Vikings still down by 4 points. They have the ball on the 33. Tarkenton throwing the ball under pressure here. And this is a superhuman effort by Paul Flatley. And that's why Paul was named the Rookie of the Year in the NFL. 4.5 minutes to play. Tarkenton owes his life on this play coming up to Grady Alderman and Earl Linden. Watch him. Numbers 67 and 73. Paul Flatley once again is the target, and it's another long one, this time for 35 yards. Flatley's 6th reception of the day, and the Vikings have the ball on the Lions' 10-yard line. But can they do it? Now it's Tommy Mason, and here's why defensive backs call him the best in the league. A tremendous second effort by Mason. And the Vikings have the ball on the Lions' 2-yard line. Here's a long count by Tarkenton. The give is to Tommy Mason. Center Mick Tingelhoff clears the hole. Mason is in, and the Vikings have their comeback win of the year. The Vikings 34, the Lions 31. Wrigley Field, Chicago. The Bears looking for their first title since 1956, and they need a tie to do it. The pressure's on. The Bears in possession. First quarter, Bill Wade back to pass. He's clobbered by Jim Marshall and Jim Prestel. Paul Dixon comes up with the ball on the Bears' 21-yard line. Now a big play for 2 young quarterbacks. Fran Tarkenton will go back to pass on first down. He can't find anyone open. Great blocking by Wilson, Linden, and Huth, but Tarkenton decides to go to the sidelines and watch Dave Witzel come up from safety to knock Tark out of bounds and out of the ball game. With a clothesline tackle, Tarkenton is hurt, so the pressure game will go to Ron Vanderkellen of Wisconsin. The Vikings have to settle for a field goal in this situation, but they have the lead 3-0. Now midway in the first quarter, the Vikings deep in their own territory. Vanderkellen hands off to Bill Brown, who gets a few yards but loses the ball to the Bears' Roosevelt Taylor on the Viking 13-yard line. The Bears move down to the 7. It's 3rd and 4, a key play for Chicago. Bill Wade hands off here to Willie Gallimore. Ed Shirachman is up from the secondary. It's man against man, and Shirachman gets his man. So the Bears have to settle for a field goal. Roger LeClaire kicking it from the 16, and the first period ends with the Vikings and the Bears deadlocked 3-3. Now the second quarter, the Bears deep in the end zone with Bobby Joe Green kicking to the Minnesota 40-yard line. Bill Butler, the pride of Berlin, Wisconsin, is waiting for it. The ball takes a bare bounce past Butler, but the blocking forms. Number 74, Dave O'Brien, throws a key block, and Bill Butler is on his way for an 18-yard return. Butler dropped the ball, but the whistle had blown. Vanderkellen has a 3rd and 1 situation on the Bears' 33. You're a rookie, and what do you call? Well, Vandy crosses up the Bears with a down-and-out pass to Gordon Smith on the Bears' 25-yard line. It's 1st and goal on the Bear 3, a 30-yard play, and quite a call for the rookie. The best defensive line in pro football can't stop the Vikings. Tom Wilson goes over from the 1. The Vikings lead 10-3. The Bears fans begin to wonder. The Viking line outcharges the Bears, and Chicago is forced to give up the ball. Green gets a tremendous boot away from his own 18-yard line. Tommy Mason taking it on the 25. The Bears pouring in. Mason is by them in a twinkle. Look out for that arm. Stay up there, Tommy. Stay up. A great run back, though, and except for that one arm, it might have gone farther than 23 yards. Well, the Bears ruined many a quarterback with their famous blitzes, but this time, Vandy the Dandy eludes them all. Gordie Smith is led perfectly on the 39-yard line, and the upset of the year is in the making. At halftime, it's the Vikings 17, the Bears 3. In the third quarter, 22 minutes to play, and Billy Wade of the Bears goes to the air, trying desperately to get the Bears back in the ball game. Despite terrific pressure, he gets the pass to Mark Coney for 29 yards. Rip Hawkins and Lee Callan get him on the Viking 41. Willie Gallimore gets the call here from Billy Wade, and watch the blocking. Terry Dillon coming up to make the stop on the Viking 12-yard line. The Bears move to the 1, and on 3rd down, quarterback Bill Wade keeps and goes in for the touchdown, and the score becomes Minnesota 17, Chicago 10. The Bears are back in the ball game as the third quarter ends. With 11 minutes to play, the Vikings have a 3rd and 3 on their own 27. Vanderkellen hands off to Mason. Tommy gets a couple of yards, but fumbles, and Taylor is on the ball for the Bears. The Western Division title hangs right here. Wade hands off to Joe Marconi, and he gets through for 8 yards to the Viking 23-yard line. The Vikings then draw a 15-yard penalty for piling on, and that was a big penalty. It puts the ball on the 11. 2 plays later, Wade gets good pass protection and will look for Joe Marconi in the end zone. He finds him all alone, and it's good for the touchdown. So with the Bears trailing by a point, Bobby Jenks adds the 17th point, and it's all tied up. The mighty Bears have to settle for a tie with the upstart Vikings, directed by a rookie in his first game of the season. Why did the Vikings improve game after game? A big aggressive line was the key. The most improved play in 1963 came from Coach Stan West's defensive unit. Here, Jim Marshall puts the blitz on John Unitas. Jim Prestel was another standout. Bob Denton and Pat Russ improved every ball game. Now watch Paul Dixon, number 76. Defensive linemen have to know all the tricks to get at their man, even the art of leapfrogging. This time, keep your eye on linebacker Rip Hawkins, working here against the Chicago Bears. And that's why they call number 58 the Ripper. Green Bay's Jim Taylor, without a question, is the best power runner in football, but the Vikings stopped him on every big third down play at Green Bay. First, Chuck Lamson nails Taylor for a yard loss on a key third down play. Again, it's third down. Green Bay needing 3 yards. And who gets the ball? You're right, it's Jim Taylor. But Don Holtz moves in there like a shot. He just misses Taylor. But the hole is quickly closed by Hawkins on a perfect swan dive, and Taylor is stopped short again. Let's watch that one again in slow motion. And keep your eye out for Rip Hawkins. Hawkins says that's just part of the fun. Again, Green Bay is going for short yardage on third down. This time, the stopper will be the cornerman, Lee Calland, a rookie with one of the toughest jobs in football. Jim Taylor is stopped short. He has been stopped short all day, making only 38 yards, his lowest game total of the year. Coach Harry Gilma has the unenviable task of setting up defensive pass patterns. Ed Shirachman led the team in interceptions. He's only a sophomore, but after all, that makes him an old-timer compared to rookie defensive backs like Lee Callan, Terry Dillon, Carl Kasulke, John Campbell, and Terry Cousins. And still, the Vikings improved week to week. A hard rush helps the secondary. Don Holtz was one of the most improved Vikings in this respect. Holtz puts on the pressure, forces a quick pass, and linebacker Roy Winston picks off the ball. The Viking who most often had to make the split-second decision to catch a punt or to let a ton of beef hit him head-on was little Billy Butler. He was on the receiving end of 21 returns. And this is Bill Butler against the 49ers, on his way here to a 60-yard touchdown return. Here's Bill Butler, this time against the Philadelphia Eagles. Billy says he likes his job, but somebody has called it the loneliest job in football. Hey, fellas, wait a minute. I'm on your side. The Viking offense was led again by Fran Tarkinen, who completed 57% of his passes. Fran has hit 55 touchdowns in his 3 years with the Vikings. Ron Van de Kellen showed the Vikings he can run and scramble as well as pass. Under the personal guidance of Norm Van Brocklin, Wisconsin's Dutchman is ready for stardom in the NFL. Much of Tarkinen and Van de Kellen's success was due to an improved core of pass receivers developed by end coach Darrell Brewster. The standout was Paul Flatley of Northwestern. Paul led Viking pass receivers with 51 catches, 867 yards, and 4 touchdowns. There were some who wondered if Flatley was big enough or fast enough, but by mid-season, every team in the league was forced to double-team the Northwestern great. Another rookie, flanker Ray Pogue from Texas, played brilliantly until mid-season injuries forced him out of the lineup. Pogue is a fellow who can catch a ball in the crowd, and he's certainly the fastest receiver in the Viking camp. Ray caught a total of 15 passes, 2 for touchdowns, in his first year as a Viking. Mr. Dependable on the Viking receiving corps, number 89, Jerry Rykow, a veteran shifted from flanker to tight end in 1963. Jerry caught 35 passes, 3 touchdowns. The former Iowa quarterback is one of the hardest running receivers in the league. When injuries crippled the Vikings, two men came off the bench and performed like veterans. One was Jim Boylan, and the other Gordy Smith, signed as a free agent 2 years ago. Smith caught 6 passes, 2 good for touchdowns. The Vikings are blessed with halfbacks who can catch the ball, too. The big target is Tom Mason, and when you talk about speed, you talk about Mason. He's the first Viking to make the All-Pro team and was a standout in the postseason Pro Bowl game. Mason can run and he can catch, just like falling off a Davenport. Offensive coach Walt Jaworski and backfield coach Tom McCormick can take a lot of credit for the improvement in the Vikings passing game. The pocket was better for Tarkenton, thanks to Brown, Mason, Linden, and Battle. Improved protection set up passes like this one to Ray Pogue. How important are those same offensive linemen to a running attack? Well, even a simple dive play can be the touchdown play if every block is perfect. Let's take a look. Center Mick Tingelhoff will block his man to the left. Right guard Larry Bowie and right tackle Earl Linden move their men to the right. And fullback Tommy Wilson shoots right up the middle. It's a short yardage play. Or is it? It's the Vikings versus Baltimore. And watch the blocks by Tingelhoff, Bowie, and Linden. Here's how it came out before 35,000 fans at Met Stadium. Tommy Wilson bolting straight ahead for 30 yards and a touchdown. The Vikings' third and one man this year was Bill Brown, and here's why they call him Second Effort Brown. Bill picked up a total of 445 yards, 5 touchdowns, averaging 3.5 yards a carry. He got most of it on that second effort. Brown also developed into a fine receiver, especially on the little swing pass, where he could use his running power. He caught 17 passes for 109 yards and 2 touchdowns. Tommy Mason again led the Vikings in rushing, 763 yards and 7 touchdowns, including this one, 70 yards, an amazing run against the Baltimore Colts. On this next play coming up, you'll have a chance to watch Tommy set up his blocks against the Los Angeles Rams. Tommy has a fine sense of balance. How do you like that? Somebody must have slipped some ice on the chalk mark. You know, if you ask anybody in football, if the Vikings have a trademark, they'll tell you it's the scramble, and Fran Tarkenton has the patent. By this time, defensive linemen have lost 5 pounds, the defensive backs have added a half-dozen gray hairs, and Coach Norm Van Brocklin may be sprouting an ulcer. But to the fans, it's the most spectacular play in football. They don't all wind up like this one, but when they do, it's really something. Well, perhaps it's catching, but Ron Vandekellen doesn't have to take a back seat in that scrambling category. Here's Vandy against the Eagles. Well, how did he get out of that one? But wait, that's only the beginning. No, sir, there isn't a team in the league that has 2 quarterbacks as exciting as Tarkenton and Vandekellen. In the National Football League, even the coaches are excited. The new year finds the Vikings stronger than ever. Top draft choices like Carl Eller of Minnesota, Hal Bedsole of Southern Cal, George Rose of Auburn, and John Kirby of Nebraska should be Viking stars of 64. Bob Ferguson will add strength at fullback. 7 conference games, plus a preseason game with the New York Giants, will be played at Metropolitan Stadium this year. Season tickets are $40. Single game tickets, $5. You can order your tickets now from the Minnesota Viking Ticket Office, South Town Center, Bloomington, 31, Minnesota.